Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Dental Hygiene Board of California meeting. My name is Dr. Carmen Jones, and I'm the president of the board. Today is Saturday, November 18, 2023, and we're commencing this meeting at 9:05 a.m. I would ask all of us to please turn all cell phones to silent to decrease interruptions. Additionally, when board members or staff are not speaking, please remember to mute the microphone to eliminate any interference or side dialogue. For those participating remotely, please log on to the WebEx website location provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided with the meeting materials. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code are provided as part of your connection to the meeting. The meeting is also being webcast at the DCA link provided in the agenda. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Hygiene Board of California. Once the meeting commences, we will proceed through the items as listed on the agenda. However, the president has the discretion to take items out of order if warranted. We have worked in scheduled breaks at 10:30, a 15-minute break, 12 to 1 for lunch, and at 2 for another 15-minute break, and prior to closed session, a 10-minute break if needed for relief time. There will be a closed session for this meeting as indicated on the agenda to address the annual executive officer evaluation. There are no enforcement cases to be acted upon. The public will be excused and only board members and DCA Office of Human Resources will participate in this session. The board welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board acting on any agenda item. However, the board asks that the public comments pertain to the current agenda item only as it's being discussed during the meeting. Public comment is not intended to initiate discussion on the topic or topics not related to the agenda item, but an opportunity for public to express their opinion for board consideration. Questions asked during public comment may or may not be answered at the board's discretion, especially if the question pertains to an item not on the agenda where the board may not discuss it. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this WebEx meeting.
This is the moderator. When the appropriate time comes, we will open up for public comment. To request time to make a comment, you may click on the hand icon, typically at the bottom of the screen on your computer view, although it might be behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And if you are a call-in user, you can press *3 to raise your hand. The other option is to open up the Q&A, which you will see at the time it's opened with the question mark icon. Type the word comment into the text box there and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. Thank you.
Going to make your number on agenda item 1.
No.
Our EEO will now make an announcement.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just for logistics for this building, if there happens to be some type of emergency where we have to evacuate, the entrance where you came in, there's an exit door in the back of the room there, and you'll go out through the glass doors. Or an emergency, there's a door to the left of me here that says exit, and that will take you to some glass doors down the hallway. That will lead you out to the parking lot. As far as the restrooms, they are out these back doors. Make a left, and the men's restroom is straight down the hall. The women's restroom, you have to cross over back behind the security desk where you entered the building, and the women's restroom is through the glass door on the far side. You can also make a long trip if you go to the right, and it goes kind of around the whole floor here, but it makes a U, and you'll wind up in the same location where the women's bathroom is. Also, what I wanted to do was introduce our legal team that we have today, and we have a new attorney. and that's Yu Ping Lin. He's off to my right here. And we also have assistance from John Kin, who's here to make sure that Yu Ping does a good job. So I turn it back over to President Dones. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask Board Secretary Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal to please call the roll.
There's a button at the base.
This is Nalini Lawley Tribble, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones,
Present.
Sonia Pat Hansen, she's absent. Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Present.
Sri Devi Ponala,
Present.
Nalini Lawley Tribble Agarwal, present. Aaron Yee,
Present.
It is established, right? A quorum has been established. Because we do not have a full complement of the board members, a simple majority of yes votes are required for any action.
Thank you. We will now move on to Agenda Item 2, public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on the agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Are there any in-person public comments?
Joanne Galliano, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and as one of the people that worked very hard to establish this board. I would like to see the board since we no longer have COVID and we have almost a full complement of board members, I really would like to see the board go back to a committee structure where you have committees that look at enforcement, education, public health. I really do feel that in the past, there's a tremendous amount of information that comes to this board, and it seems to me in a committee structure, when it goes to committee first, oftentimes things are vetted more clearly and in more detail than they can be with a huge group like this. So I think that for the public and for the safety of the consumer, there's a definite benefit to step back and look at these items more closely as a committee, which would bring back recommendations and action items to the full board for discussion. So I'd like to recommend that we go back to that structure now that we are no longer constrained by COVID and we do have a full complement of board members, so we would be able to have working committees that could actually look at the issues that we deal with.
Thank you. Are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on items not on the agenda, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And if you would like, you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning. Any public comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall we close the public comment feature?
Yes. Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to Agenda Item 3, the President's Welcome Report. And so again, I'd like to say good morning. I'm the President of the Dental Hygiene Board, here to welcome you and present the President's Report. I've been very busy with Executive Officer Anthony Lum and myself meeting a couple times a month or more for updates on board issues that need my attention. Today's report will be brief. One announcement I would like to make is that we've been appointed 2 new board members, and one of them is present for today's meeting. Dr. Sridevi Panala was appointed to the board in September to fill our vacant dentist position. So we'd like to welcome her, and Michael Long, RDHAP, who was recently appointed in October to fill the HAP vacancy. He's not here today, but Dr. Pinalla, would you like to say a few words about your appointment to the board?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jones. I'm excited and honored to be serving on Dental Hygiene Board of California as a public health dentist. I have been working as a public health dentist for the past 19 years in different capacities. I also held faculty appointment positions to support dental students and hygiene students in their educational journeys. Currently, in my capacity as a Chief Integration Officer, my role is to develop teams, creating and supporting integrated systems for supporting whole person care. Currently, we live in Fremont with my family, and my daughter is in medical school first year, and my son is a junior in high school. I'm looking forward to work alongside with fellow board members on Dental Hygiene Board of California with initiatives that can improve the oral health of Californians. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome again. The other announcement for this meeting is about closed session. We don't have any enforcement cases to address, but the board will conduct the annual evaluation of our executive officer with assistance from the DCA Office of Human Resources. With that, and with the holidays upon us, I'd like to wish everyone a safe and happy and healthy holiday season. That concludes my report. Are there any questions? Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. And there are instructions on the slide that's being displayed. But if you'd like to make a comment on the president's report, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can click on the question mark icon, type the word comment in that text box and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. Are there any comments on the president's welcome and report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to Agenda Item 4, update from the Department of Consumer Affairs, DCA Executive Staff.
Hey, good morning. Are
Good
you able to hear me
morning.
all right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for having me today. My name is Yvonne Durantes. I am the Assistant Deputy Director over Board and Bureau Relations. Hi, Dr. Pinalla. Nice to meet you. Welcome and congratulations. Hope the board benefits from your great knowledge. So thank you for being here. So I am going to provide quite a bit of updates. It's a bit long, so please bear with me. If there are any questions or anything that needs to be repeated, feel free to ask any questions at any point or at the end. A lot of the information that I will be providing is actually also on our fall newsletter. So if you do want to go ahead and reference anything, it is available online as well. So thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to go started with our Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency update. Secretary Lourdes Castro Ramirez has been appointed to the Chief of Housing and Homelessness in the Office of LA Mayor Bass, effective November 2nd. And so she was an extraordinary partner to DCA and to the boards and bureaus. She was a relentless consumer protection champion, and we are very grateful for her leadership. We will miss her dearly, but we do wish her the best in her new role. And until a new secretary is appointed by Governor Newsom, Tad Egawa, the general counsel at agency, will be serving as the acting secretary. And so we look forward to working with him. Moving on to the diversity, equity, and inclusion update. Training continues to be a priority for the DEI Steering Committee. In October, 138 DCA leaders and 26 board members completed the DEI Human-Centered Approach training provided by the University of Massachusetts consultant, Dr. Bernard Gibson. And on November 7th, the University of Massachusetts consultant, Christopher Veal, also provided a virtual training entitled DEI Dialogue for Leaders. And this was available for DCA managers, supervisors, and leadership. The training will include example language and tools to discuss psychological safety and how these impact conversations. There were interactive discussions around challenges leaders are currently facing, and we do continue to encourage leaders to attend any future trainings. Also, as an effort to expand culturally competent communication and promote the importance of meeting the needs of California consumers, licensees, and applicants, DCA's Deputy Director of Communications recently met with the Consulate of Mexico in San Francisco to share information and resources about DCA, as well as hear about areas of interest to the consulate. As a result of the meeting, DCA offered partnership for in future person and online events and to share information with consumer resources. The DEI Steering Committee is also pleased to highlight the work of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, DCA's Tribal Liaison and DCA's Executive Officer, DEI Steering Committee Chair, Yafana Lamar recently introduced the executive officer of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to the executive officer of the Sacramento Native American Health Clinic. The meeting was to discuss the possibility of tribal health clinics serving as locations for vocational nursing students needing to obtain clinical hours required for licensure. Participants also discussed strategies to encourage members of California's tribal communities to consider becoming a healthcare provider. Future discussions to include consortiums of tribal health providers are in the planning stages now. Moving on to in-person meetings and Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. So as you know, DCA boards and bureaus may conduct entirely remote public meetings without noticed locations accessible to the public through December 31st of this year, so long the public is able to participate in the meeting remotely. However, commencing on January 1st of 2024, there will be a total of 4 options that will be available pursuant to Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Option number 1 is the traditional single location option. This is a meeting where the majority of members are gathered at one publicly noticed accessible location. No members are participating remotely, and there is no requirement to allow for remote participation. Option number 2 is the traditional teleconference option, in which board members are located at different publicly noticed and accessible locations, and they are connected via phone or WebEx. And there is no requirement to allow for remote public participation. Option number 3 is the new teleconference option. A majority of board members are gathered at one publicly noticed and accessible location. The extra board members above a majority can participate remotely from private non-public sites, and the meeting must allow for remote public participation. And finally, option number 4 is the new advisory board teleconference option, in which all members of an advisory body can participate remotely from private non-public meeting sites. The meeting must have at least one publicly noticed and accessible location where at least one board staff member is present and where the public can participate in the meeting. Additionally, the meeting must allow for remote public access. So we do continue to remind you to please work with your executive officer or your legal counsel in case you have any questions, either through the end of the year, finishing off through December 31st, or beginning January 1st. Moving on to your board member training requirements. Won't go too deep in this one because I know I covered it in July. And Dr. Pernalla, I hope you received my email with all of the indications on it as well. And so just a friendly reminder that your trainings are due December 31st. You must complete those to stay in compliance. And the information security awareness training is recommended, but it is required for members who have a DCA email assigned. So if you don't have a DCA email assigned, you don't have to worry about it. You can take it. It's only about, I think, 15, 20 minutes long, and it is available on our learning management system. However, you do have to complete the sexual harassment prevention training requirement this year. It is mandatory, and it's a 2-hour supervisory training requirement. So if you have not completed it, and if you need any assistance with logging into our learning management system, if you forgot your user or your password, I'm happy to assist with that and reset it for you, because December 31st is sneaking up on us. So please make sure to complete those requirements by then. Moving on to the out-of-state travel requirement update, with the recent signing of SB 447, Governor Newsom did adapt. He'd lifted the travel restrictions to states that have adopted anti-LGBTQ plus laws, and that was immediately ended. California's restricted states travel list was eliminated and replaced by a new public awareness project that will consult with community leaders to promote California's values of acceptance and inclusion of the LGBTQ plus community across the country. And so over the past years, there have been several out-of-state trips that were not permitted when requested by boards because they were not authorized because of the restricted travel list. However, that now has been lifted and travel to all states is permitted. So if you do need to travel out of state for anything that serves the board's functions, please do go through the traditional established process of review by DCA agency and the governor's office. And again, if you do have any questions in regard to that process, please reach out to your executive officer or board and bureau relations. Moving on to our Promise campaign launch, the State Employees Giving at Work campaign. In partnership with board members, DCA will continue its tradition of generosity and caring for our communities. This year's Our Promise campaign, Giving at Work campaign, officially kicked off on October 5th, and it does run through December 31st. Leading our efforts this year are DCA's co-chairs, Monica Vargas, who is the Deputy Director over Communications, and myself. This annual campaign gives state employees, including board members, an opportunity to support nonprofits of your choice. This can be through a one-time donation or through a payroll deduction. And the amount can be of your choice with as little as donating $5. And so these contributions will make a very positive impact and provide resources to a lot of needed organizations, and does support causes such as veterans, animals, the environment, and much more. I think there are over 4,000 nonprofits that you are able to choose from. So if you do have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer that. And lastly, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you did miss the Board and Bureau Relations fall newsletter, it is posted online. It was also emailed to your board president and executive officer. So if you would like it, please reach out and request it. But that's all I have for you. Thanks for bearing with me through these updates. Happy to answer any questions or repeat any of the information I covered.
Thank you. Are there any board comments? I do have a question. Are the additional training dates listed on the webpage as well? You said there would be additional for the equity diversity training.
So I think there's only one more DEI training scheduled. I think it's actually coming up next week. The other ones aren't scheduled. There's not much scheduled for December because of all the holidays and stuff. But I think the next ones will be in January. If there are any that are available to board members or board leadership, we will be sending out an email similar to the one that we sent out for Dr. Bernard's back in October. So hopefully you got that email. And if you weren't able to attend that training, it will be recorded and posted. So yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Great, thank you. Any additional board member questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Okay, seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the DCA report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and your report. Before we move on to agenda item 5, EEO Anthony Lum would like to make an announcement.
This is Anthony Lum. Just for the record, just want to mention that Sonia Pat Hansen, one of our board members, has arrived, and she arrived at 9:20. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 5. Update from the Dental Board of California. Okay, and I'd like to ask Dr. Felsenfeld, the president of the Dental Board, to provide the report via WebEx.
Thank you. And I've promoted Dr. Felsenfeld so that he may unmute himself as he pleases.
On his 19th birthday, Chris seemed to
There
have
you
changed.
go. We do seem to have some
According to
background
John,
noise,
Chris
Dr.
was happy to
Felsenfeld.
see his family and was no longer doing drugs, and he had dramatically slimmed down.
We were very happy to have him home. And
Dr.
we had
Felsenfeld,
thought
I am not
we
hearing
would
your voice,
have
but I am hearing a
loving,
TV
good
show in the
relationships,
background.
such as when he was a little kid, and that this stuff would have been, shall we say, out of his blood.
The Suttons were cautiously optimistic. Chris went on to get his high school diploma, and the entire Sutton family took a cruise together
Is
to
there
the
any
British
way that
Isles to
we
celebrate
could
being
check
a
in with
family
Dr.
again.
Felsenfeld?
While
Oh,
there, Chris met a young
okay.
woman
There's a
from
loud
Live.
television.
who met
There's a
Chris.
television show. Perfect. Much better. Thank you. So Dr. Felsenfeld, whenever you're ready. We're ready for you, Dr. Felsenfeld.
Technical difficulties.
And it is possible Dr. Felsenfeld cannot hear us and does not realize that this item is up.
This is Dr. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer of the Dental Board. I'm going to go ahead and take this item for Dr. Felsenfeld. It sounds like he may be having some technical difficulty. So if you don't mind, Dr. Felsenfeld, I will jump in here.
Thank you.
So good morning, President Doan, Executive Officer Lum, and members of the Dental Hygiene Board of California. I'm pleased to provide this update on the Dental Board of California activities over the past few months. In early October, we held a board meeting to approve our draft sunset report. This report will be submitted to the legislature by the end of the calendar year in preparation for the board's 2024 sunset review hearing. By the way, congratulations to your board. You had a very successful sunset review, and that was just excellent. Great to see that. So I'd like to highlight some of the things from our report that we had included in our report. First of all, our board has gone from a 30% vacancy rate to an 8% vacancy rate. So I'm very excited. I'm in my first year as an executive officer with the dental board. I've known Mr. Lum for quite some time. I've grown up at DCA. However, this is my first time as an EO, and I always said I would never be an EO because it's extremely hard. But what the heck? So we're very excited about what's happening here with our vacancy rate. An increase in our enforcement staff has allowed the board to make significant progress in the backlog of administrative and criminal complaints and cases. We're also part of the Department of Consumer Affairs Enlightened Enforcement Project. And so we look forward to making improvements with regard to complaint intake, case investigation, and discipline. And this project is expected to conclude in early 2024. We have our board approved 14 legislative proposals this past year. We worked on various regulation packages, and many of those we worked with EO Lum and his staff to move forward where there was overlap with hygiene. So again, we really appreciate the collaboration. Last week, we had our final quarterly meeting of the calendar year. And thank you again, Executive Officer Lum, for providing an update on dental hygiene board activities. The meeting itself, much like yours, includes updates on licensing, enforcement, legislative and regulatory discussions. And our meeting concluded with elections. And so I'm happy to report that Dr. Felsenfeld will continue as the board president, and also returning to their officer positions are Ms. Joanne Pacheco, our RDH, and vice president, and then Dr. Loren as secretary. And so the last thing I'd like to share with you is, after a bit of a sabbatical, the board has begun publishing its newsletter. So we have had 2 issues this year, May and November. They're both online, and I encourage you to review them. We worked again very closely with DCA Publications and have some great articles and information. I will be here for most of the meeting in case you have any questions, but that concludes my update this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may click the hand icon to raise your hand, or the question mark icon, and then type the word comment to be recognized. And Dr. Felsenfeld, I'm going to send you a request to unmute in case you would like to add something. You're unmuted. And Dr. Felsenfeld, can you hear us? All right, it does appear that the technical issue does persist. Our apologies to Dr. Felsenfeld. And I do not see any other raised hands or request to comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the report. Moving on to agenda item 6, discussion and possible action to approve the July 22nd, 2023 full board meeting minutes. Are there any board member changes or amendments to the July 22nd, 2023 full board meeting minutes?
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just a quick announcement. We revised the meeting minutes title. Originally, it was indicated as a WebEx meeting, so that was corrected because it was an in-person meeting in July. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If you have any comments or questions about the July minutes, you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. Are there any comments on the minutes? I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Please identify yourself and then make a motion.
This is Justin Matthews. I move to approve the July 22nd, 2023 full board meeting minutes.
Thank
This
you.
is Erin Yee. I second.
Thank you. Will Board Secretary Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal please call roll and record the votes for this agenda item?
This is Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones.
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen.
Aye.
Sherman King absent and excused. Michael Long absent and excused. Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Sridevi Punala.
Abstain.
Nalini Lali Tribble, aye. Erin Yee.
Aye.
Thank you.
Af-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, after the roll call, the result says aye. It passed, motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 7, the Executive Officer's Report, and this is informational only. I would ask the Board's Executive Officer, Anthony Lum, to present this agenda item.
Good morning. I'm Anthony Lum, Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board. I just have one quick announcement for the board members and staff. If lunch menus were handed out to you, so if you could make those decisions by the break time, so that way we can order your lunch and have it delivered in time, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Moving on to my report, the first item that I have is about personnel. We continue to work to fill our vacant positions and still have a few to go. For the enforcement analyst, we chose an internal candidate to refill the position. Sabra D'Ambrosio, who is our continuing education analyst, was selected. She started her new position on September 1st and is also covering the CE desk until her previous position is filled. We've also hired Paul Corbin to fill our special investigator position. He started working on November 1st and has extensive experience in law enforcement, so I believe the investigator position should be an easy transition for him. We've also received acceptance of a job offer for the citation and fine analyst position and expect the new hire to begin work on December 1st. On the flip side of that, as of this past week, we have another vacancy as the wheels keep turning, as one of our licensing analysts left for a promotion to a different agency. We thanked her for her short time working for the board and have already begun the process to refill the position. I'd like to thank our existing staff for stepping up and going above and beyond what's expected to cover these vacant desks, in addition to their own workload, while we refill the position. Are there any questions on the personnel aspects? Okay, moving on. Second item is about our budget. We always like to talk about our fiscal health. The latest budget expenditure and revenue reports are in the meeting materials on pages 30 to 35 for your review. To read the reports, view them from left to right and from top to bottom in columns. They're also color-coded for ease of reading. These reports reflect from fiscal month 3, which is September, so there's many months of expenditures and revenue ahead moving forward in the year. The first report on pages 30 to 32 is our expenditure projection report. The report shows the prior year actuals in the green section. Our actual budget, monthly expenditures, and budget plus encumbrances, which are money set aside for future expenses, are in the blue sections, and projected expenses are shown in orange. At the bottom of the orange section on page 32, it shows after all of our projected and anticipated expenses at this time, we should have roughly $328,000 remaining, or 11.3% of our budget if no additional high expenses arise. The next report I'd like to review is the actual expenditure report, which is on pages 33 to 34. And this shows, which is our quote checking account if you want to compare it to our personal accounts. And it shows that the board has spent a little under $783,000 through fiscal month 3, which is indicated on the bottom of page 34 in the darker blue line, year-to-date plus encumbrance column. Are there any questions on that report? Okay. The next report in the meeting materials is our revenue report. Our current year revenue report is on page 35. That indicates the amount of revenue the board has received through fiscal month 3. Currently, we received a little over $950,000 in revenue, as shown at the bottom of the year-to-date column in dark blue. Through the year, we'll continue to monitor the amount of revenue received to ensure we're on track for what's projected. Any questions on revenue? Okay. The next report is on page 36, and this is actually our fund condition report, and this is a very important report. It's done in point in time, just like the other reports are. And what this is, it's called our fund condition report. It's, quote, our savings account. And for the current year, which is the second column from the left under CY, our fund is healthy with a little over $3.2 million in reserve, as indicated at the bottom of that column, and gradually increases in outlying years. This is a good safety net in the instance additional funds are needed to cover expected and unexpected expenditures. However, please keep in mind that we must request and be approved to spend these funds through budget change proposals, and they're not funds that are just readily available to be spent. The months in reserve at the bottom is the duration board operations may continue without receiving any additional revenue. By the end of this year, it's anticipated that we'll have a 12.8-month reserve, which is good to keep our cushion and solvency. Any questions on the fund condition? Okay. The next aspect that I'm going to report on is about administration, and since my last report, I've been keeping busy with the following. Over the past few months, board staff worked through a Microsoft Teams setup and transition process where we can now make and receive phone calls through the computer instead of a separate phone. Voicemail messages are translated to text and emailed to staff, which provides more information so staff can provide a more accurate response to callers to address their issues. I participated in several meetings with DCA on various topics, including departmental and board issues, military licenses, and our regulations. I also attended the Dental Board's October Sunset Review meeting, and reported our activities to them at their November 8th to 9th, 2023 board meeting. I want to thank Dr. Felsenfeld, the president, and EO Tracy Montez for their hospitality and hosting. The next item is about Sunset Review. And as you know, that was a large project that we worked through all of last year. And with the governor's signing of our Sunset Bill, which was AB 1257, we can officially close the book on our 2023 Sunset Review with a pass, and the provisions from the bill go into effect as of January 1st, 2024. This included the elimination of the clinical examination requirement for California graduates who apply for the license within 3 years of graduation. For those graduates who wait after 3 years of graduation and out-of-state applicants who don't qualify to apply through the licensure by credential pathway, a passing score on a clinical exam is required. The bill also continues the board through January 1st, 2028. The next item is an update about our strategic plan that we're working through right now. And we're in the middle of creating a new strategic plan as our current plan expires this year. We initiated the process with a procedural meeting in June 2023 and have since completed the strategic plan survey. The DCA Solid team conducted interviews of the board's interested stakeholders, including board members, staff, and other entities. Once all of the data is compiled and analyzed, the board will schedule a strategic plan session with Solid. I anticipate a meeting date in early 2024, probably in February, to complete the plan. I know there's new board member appointments, so we'll have to catch them up with the prior information from our June meeting. The next item is about military and military practice. The first one is an update on our temporary license. And in 2021, Assembly Bill 107 was approved to provide a means for active military persons and their spouses to obtain temporary licensure in California using active military orders when they're relocated to California. These temporary licenses, once issued, are valid for 12 months and can be renewed once for a maximum of a 2-year active period. The board has promulgated regulations for the temporary license, and details about its status will be presented later in the meeting by Dr. Adina Petty. The 2-year temporary license was established so that way if members of the military or their spouses plan to stay in California, it gives them time to accumulate all the necessary requirements to actually apply for the license in the regular pathways. The next item is regarding the federal law that was put into effect this year. And this was effective January 5th, 2023. And this law provides the authority for any out-of-state dental hygiene licensee to come to California and practice using their respective state's dental hygiene license and theirs or their spouse's active military orders for relocation to California. For portability, the individuals using this authority are only required to notify the board of their intent to practice in California under this provision and provide a copy of the active military orders. This is not an approval by the board by any means to allow these out-of-state practitioners to provide dental hygiene services, but an informational notification they intend on working here as prescribed by federal law. To date, we have received notification from 9 out-of-state licensees of their intent to practice in California using active military orders. One notification was not accepted because the licensee did not meet the criteria of the law. The department is creating a military portal to list out-of-state licensees practicing under this provision for public view and reference, and it should be active soon. We just completed a training in regards to using the portal, and so I believe their intent is to activate it sometime after the Thanksgiving holiday. I just want to reiterate what Yvonne mentioned earlier, and that's this is a reporting year for requirements for trainings for DCA employees. And for those individual members who have not completed it yet, Board staff will be sending reminders, so that way they are aware that that needs to be completed by the end of December at the latest. DCA prefers that it's completed as soon as possible, so that way it's not put on the side burner, and then we're stuck with the holidays and all the other things that go on through the next few weeks. So for those who haven't completed the sexual harassment prevention training, please do so as soon as possible. I'm one of them, so I'm guilty. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions for it?
Are there any board member comments? Are there any public comments? Public in-person comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Of course, if anyone would like to make a comment on the executive officer's report, you may look for the hand icon, click that to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, and our calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the executive officer's report? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. And thank you
Thank
for your report. We will now move on to agenda item 8, Dental Hygiene Board of California, election of officers. I would like to ask Executive Officer Anthony Lum to present this agenda item.
Thank you, President Jones. Anthony Lum, Executive Officer, once again on this agenda item. Each year at the November board meeting, the board nominates and votes for new officers of president, vice president, and secretary to conduct the board's business in the next calendar year. For this year, staff has recommended we maintain the same slate of officers for 2024 because of the following reasons. Both the vice president and secretary were voted into their respective officer positions this year to replace 2 board members who resigned. In fact, this is the secretary's first meeting in an active role. They've only marginally experienced the officer positions, and I believe it would benefit them to continue for another year. The second reason is the board is currently in the middle of working in its new strategic plan, as I just reported. Similarly, as last year with the sunset review, I believe it would be in the best interest of the board to continue with the existing officers to complete this project, especially since we've had new board members recently appointed. I ask for the board's nomination and approval to maintain the current slate of officers through 2024. Thank you.
Are there any nominations? Okay, I move for the board to maintain its current slate of officers for 2024 as follows. Dr. Carmen Jones as president, Sonia Pat Hansen as vice president, and Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal as secretary.
This is Justin Matthews. I second.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Of course, if anyone would like to make a comment on the election of officers, you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, or you may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment into the text box there and click send, and our calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the election of officers? I do not see any requests to speak. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please, thank you.
You're welcome.
Will Board Secretary Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Nalini Lawley Tribble, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones,
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen,
Aye.
Chairman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Sridevi Ponnala,
Aye.
Nalini Lawley Tribble, aye. Erin Yee,
Aye.
the motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 7, oh, I think I have this. Yeah, number 9, sorry. Okay. We'll now move on to agenda item 9, discussion and possible action to accept mannequin-based dental hygiene clinical examinations permanently from board-approved administrators to apply toward licensure. I would ask Executive Officer Anthony Lum to present this agenda item.
Thank you, President Dones. Anthony Lum, Executive Officer, once again. In August of 2020, and due to the pandemic, the board voted to temporarily accept the alternative mannequin-based clinical examination in addition to the live patient-based clinical exam so that dental hygiene students would have minimal interruption in the pursuit of a California dental hygiene license. Because of the continuing pandemic, the expiration date to accept the exam was extended several times over the years up to the current expiration date of January 31st, 2024. With the pandemic over and predominant use and acceptance of the mannequin-based clinical exam nationwide and its portability, staff recommends for the board to permanently accept mannequin-based clinical exam results from board-approved providers to apply towards licensure. Information from exam administrators of where exams are accepted can be found in the meeting materials on pages 39 to 42. As previously reported, as of January 1st, 2024, the clinical exam requirement for licensure will be eliminated for California dental hygiene program graduates if they apply for the license within 3 years of graduation. However, the board still needs to accept clinical exam results for those California graduates who don't apply within 3 years of graduating and for any out-of-state applicants for the license, except for the licensure by credential pathway. So I ask for you to approve this agenda item, and I thank you.
Is there a motion? Please first unmute your microphone, identify yourself, and then make a motion. This is Carmen Dones. I move for the board to permanently accept the alternative mannequin-based clinical examinations administered by CDA, REB, and CITA and credits to fulfill the clinical examination requirement for licensure. Is there a second?
This is Erin Yee. I second.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion?
I would,
Mm.
oh, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I'm wondering for these mannequin-based, I'm new to this, so the company that runs this, is it the credits? So a dental hygienist seeking licensure has to pay over $1,000 for the exam. Is that correct? And I'm just wondering if this outfit is seeing cost savings due to these types of changes in their models of not using humans, but now using mannequins. And I know we have no control over those costs, but I think it's imperative to bring it up that they might be reducing their overhead by using mannequins instead of live humans. And I think that is something we should keep in mind when I'm advocating for affordable processes for dental hygienists to seek licensure. We have no control over what they charge, but I think it's important to think about that in terms of we are making an action today that will allow these companies to provide these examination services potentially at a lower cost to themselves while still charging the hopeful hygienist the same amount of money. Just thought I'd say that.
Yes.
This is Anthony Lum. Just to reiterate that the board did adopt to actually eliminate the clinical exam result as of January 1st. So the cost to these graduating students will be nil technically. So if individuals want to wait 3 years to not apply for the license, then of course they'll incur the cost of the exam. But for the most part, I believe a high percentage of our graduates will apply within the 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the mannequin-based exams discussion, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment, and click send. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Are there any comments on the exam issue? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Will Board Secretary Nalini Lally Tribble Agarwal please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Nalini Lally Tribble Agarwal, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Jones,
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen,
Aye.
Sherman King absent and excused, Michael Long absent and excused, Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Dr. Punala,
Aye.
Nalini Lally Tribble Agarwal, aye. Erin Yee,
Aye.
this motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 10, discussion and possible action to approve temporary student enrollment increase at Diablo Valley College.
The board would like to ask Tonette Steeb, Program Director of the Dental Hygiene Program at Diablo Valley College, to please present her request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Tonette Steeb, Diablo Valley College, Program Director. Thank you for hearing my request this morning. We had a student who was not able to finish the fall semester of the second year due to health reasons. The student is now able to return and has returned to finish to graduate in 2025. We submitted the report at the beginning of, well, I think it went in September 1st, but this was the beginning of the semester when the finalization of all this came about. We also submitted to CODA, Commission on Dental Accreditation. CODA had asked us, they have a new form, a new process for asking for temporary increases and permanent increases. So I was asked to resubmit based on their new criteria that went into effect on August 11th. I did that. And on November 9th, we received approval from CODA that we'd met the criteria to be compliant with their regulations. So we're hoping that today that you have that same determination that the student will be allowed to complete the education in a timely manner so they can be out in the workforce, which is greatly needed right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Please first unmute your microphone, identify yourself, and then make a motion.
This is Justin Matthews, and I move for the board to approve the temporary increase in enrollment requested by Diablo Valley College for the fall 2023 and spring 2024 semesters.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Is there any board member discussion?
This is just a comment. This is Pat Hansen. Just want to make a comment that this touched my heart. I really, really appreciate what you guys do for their staff, for the students. And I've been in that position, and this is imperative that you guys plead for people like them.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is Carmen Jones. I also wanted to make a comment. I'm really surprised that that CODA is requiring, first of all, because the student is returning, so the student was accepted already to the program.
The reason it needed to be reported is because it affects our ratios. We're at the top end of our ratios. So in order to do this, we needed to add a faculty member. So that is why it needed to be reported to CODA.
Mhm. Well, thank you for clarifying. Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any WebEx comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the enrollment increase, if you can look for the question mark icon, click that to raise your hand to request a public comment, type comment and click send, or you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments at this time? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will Board Secretary Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal please call the roll and record votes for this item?
This is Nalini Lawley Tribble. Carmen Jones,
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen,
Aye.
Sherman King absent and excused, Michael Long absent and excused, Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Sri Devi Panala,
Aye.
Nalini Lawley Tribble Agarwal, aye. Erin Yee,
Aye.
this motion has passed.
Thank you. And thank you for such a thorough report.
Yes, thank you very much.
This is Pat Hansen. Can I just have a question? Sorry. It's for Tona. Can I?
For Tonette.
Yes, sorry. Who was the second reporting besides CODA? Who did you guys have to ask for permission to increase numbers? Oh, the board and CODA. Got it. I missed that little, thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 11. Give me just a sec here. Where am I feeling lost here? Oh, yes, okay. Discussion and possible action to approve expansion of clinical facilities at Concord Career College, San Diego. And we ask Ms. Kimberly Pennington from Concord Career College, San Diego Dental Hygiene Educational Program Director to present their request. Morning.
Okay, there it is. Good morning. I'm Kimberly Pennington, Program Director of Concord Career College, San Diego. Thank you for having me and presenting. The Concord Career College of San Diego would like to ask permissions to expand our clinic in order to expand the enrollment of our students from 24 to 32. So we would be expanding our clinical operatories from 12 to 16. We have submitted to CODA and to DHBC for approval.
Is there a motion? Please first unmute your microphone, identify yourself, and then make a motion.
I will move for the board to approve the clinical facilities increase request by CCCSD.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Erin Yee, I second.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion? I do have a question. Have you received approval from CODA?
Not yet. We did resubmit, and we did resubmit to you as well. And we're in the process of hearing back from them. They did have their board meeting, so we had to resubmit in a different fashion, kind of like what she was saying about how there was a different way for expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
This is Pat Hansen. I do have a question for you as well. When you guys are increasing the number
Yes,
of the students, you guys also increasing the number of staff
yes,
to match that what the ratio is right now, and as well as the operatory rooms, right?
yes,
So you do have the expansion area to where you can increase it to more operatories, you're
yes.
saying? Okay, and that's been set to be approved to CODA, and I assume is a college as well to expand it?
To the who?
To the college to expand the building? part of
Yes, yes.
it? Okay. Thank you.
I have a comment. When is the CODA approval expected, and when are you planning to start enrolling the students?
Enrollment would be starting in April. We were planning to start construction in December, and we should hear back from CODA soon. I'm not really sure exactly when we'll hear back from them.
Thank you.
Are there any other board member comments?
I have a comment or question. So this increase in serving the student numbers, is this subject to completion of the construction prior to student enrollment? Okay, yeah,
Yes, yes.
okay, thank you.
I have a point of clarification. Do we need to modify the motion? Because I believe that we need to have CODA approval before we can approve this item.
For expansion?
Yes. Yes,
May I clarify?
please.
Okay, so so Ms. Pennington submitted to CODA for increase in student numbers. They asked us, because the facilities are not complete yet, she really can't ask the board for increase in student numbers. That is why right now she's requesting increase in physical, in the facility. So once, if the board is allowed, or if the board allows increase of the facility, she will then come back to the board and request an increase in student numbers. I went over all the documentation that she submitted. It is in order. And I just wanted to make that clarification. So your decision is really not based on CODA. She's not asking CODA for increase in facilities. She's asking you so that hopefully when facilities are complete, she can ask the board for increase in student numbers.
Thank you, Dr. Petty, for the clarification.
No problem.
Thank you. Is there any other board member discussion? Seeing, oh, yes.
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just one comment. In several communications and even when reporting out to the dental board and their members had questions in regards to our workforce efforts to look into workforce expansion. I know the board doesn't have any direct correlation in affecting that, but at the same time, we do look at the issue because it's, you know, our livelihood as far as overseeing this profession. And with the numbers of individuals, licensees who have left the profession, there's an anticipated workforce shortage at this time. Again, it's anticipated. I'm not sure if we'll need to do more research if there's an actual workforce shortage. But I think opportunities like this to expand programs are really good aspects to make sure that there's future professionals moving into the profession. So thank you for the consideration on this agenda item.
Thank you. Are there any in-person comments? There, at the base, there's a button. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tuka Zokai and I'm with the California Dental Association. I wanted to share that we are also working to address the workforce shortage and understand it better. So we are going to conduct a survey in the next week to all of the dental hygiene programs in California. We're working with the Dental Hygiene Education Association to try and quantify some of the numbers around enrollment and practice after graduation. So we're aligned in addressing this.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any other in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the issue, you may click the hand icon to raise your hand, or you may click the question mark icon, type the word comment into the text box there and click send. And our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the expansion of clinical facilities? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I would now like to ask Board Secretary Nalini Lally Tribble Agarwal to please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
President Gomes, may I make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
Perhaps given the discussion, the motion should be repeated before the vote is taken.
Great.
Thank you.
So the motion is, okay, yes, please, thank you.
I think the motion was made for the board to approve the Concord Career College clinical facilities increase requested by the college. Thank you.
This is Nalini Lally Tribble. I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones,
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen,
Aye.
Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Sridevi Ponnala,
Aye.
Nalini Lally Tribble Agarwal, aye. Erin Yee,
Aye.
this motion has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in and presenting today.
Thank you.
This is Pat Hansen. I just want to say also as well, thank you for seeking in the future and acknowledging the shortage. So per se, we'll find out later. But we know for a fact I work in clinical, and I appreciate you seeking to the future, increasing the amount of students coming out.
You're welcome.
I would now like to call for a break at, yes, and we will return at 10:45. We are ready to begin the meeting again. And I'd like to ask Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal to do a roll call vote.
This is Nalini Lawley Tribble. And now I will call the roll. Carmen Dones,
Here?
Sonia Pat Hansen,
Present.
Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Present.
Sri Devi Panala,
Present.
Nalini Lawley Tribble Agarwal, present. Erin Yee,
Present.
Thank you. We will now move on to Agenda Item 12, Regulatory Updates, Status of Dental Hygiene Board of California Regulatory Package. And this is informational only, and I would like to ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Dones. On the line, we also have Elizabeth Dietzen Olson, our legal representative for the regulatory portion. First of all, I'd like to bring to your attention on page 99 of 226, the status of all the current regulatory packages. As you can see on page 100, we have 1114 licensure for military veterans and spouses. And we had to withdraw that package because of some changes that need to occur, and we will address that later in the meeting. We also have mobile dental hygiene clinic, which is moving its way through the review process, as well as RDHAP practice registration. That package is 1116 and 116.5. That's going together and it's moving along nicely. We also have 1105B4 faculty to student ratio that is also moving through, and all three of those are being reviewed by the Director of Consumer Affairs currently. And we also have a new rulemaking file, which again we'll be covering shortly for your consideration for 1105.4 appeals process and reinstatement of withdrawn dental hygiene educational programs. And the final update is the board has moved over sections, or in the process of moving over sections 1073.1, 1073.3, and 1082.2. Those are dental board regulations which apply to dental hygienists, and the dental board was gracious enough to allow us to move those over to our regulations currently. So that is where we are at currently with all our regulatory packages. Any questions?
Is there any board member discussion? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the regulatory update, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, and each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. Are there any questions or comments on the regulatory update? It does not look like we have any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will now move on to agenda item 13, discussion and possible action to initiate a rulemaking and amend Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1105.4, Appeals Process and Reinstatement of Withdrawn Dental Hygiene Educational Programs. I would like to ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you again, Dr. Jones. During board staff review of regulations that are applicable to dental hygiene educational programs, staff determined there was no clear process within California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1105.4, to reinstate board approval of dental hygiene educational programs that are withdrawn due to noncompliance with board laws and regulations. Additionally, staff determined there was no clear guidance as to requirements to maintain the withdrawn status of dental hygiene educational programs should they not comply with board directives. Staff prepared language for the board to review and address the lack of process regarding reinstatement of withdrawn dental hygiene educational programs, as well as for the board to maintain their withdrawn status. Staff recommends the board review the proposed language and determine whether additional information or language is required. If the language is satisfactory to the board staff would ask for you to direct us to begin the rulemaking to establish a process for reinstatement of withdrawn dental hygiene educational programs, as well as a process to maintain a DHEP's withdrawn status. If you will refer to page 104, I will walk you through the changes. The first change is in little a. We wanted to clarify 90 days, and 90 days could be interpreted different ways, so we were requesting 90 calendar days. In little b, we were requesting the educational program shall be given at least 10 business days notice of an informal conference. Again, we clarified in C1 business days. In C2, we again clarified at least 5 calendar days. And then the main portion of the regulation that is to be considered is little d, reinstatement of dental hygiene board approval of a withdrawn dental hygiene educational program. So therefore, programs seeking reinstatement after withdrawal must comply with the following requirements. And we have it listed 1, 2, and then 2A, 2B, and 2C. So if you'd read over that and see if the language is acceptable to you. And I will answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
This is Justin Matthews, and I move for the board to approve the proposed language for CCR Section 1105.4 and direct staff to submit the language to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the EO to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at Section 1105.4 as noticed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Erin Yee. I second.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment.
Certainly. If anyone has any comments on the process for withdrawing withdrawn educational programs, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, type the word comment in that text box and click send. And our call-in users may use *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Are there any comments on the process? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. I just want to thank the board for taking this agenda item under consideration. I hope I never have to use it, because if we do, that means we would have had to take the approval away from an educational program, which I hope never happens. So just wanted to make that statement, and thank you.
Thank you. Will the board secretary, Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal, please call roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Nalini Lali Tribble Agrawal, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones,
Aye.
Pat Hansen,
Aye.
Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Sridevi Punala,
Aye.
Nalini Lali Tribble Agrawal, aye. Erin Yee,
Aye.
this motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 14, discussion and possible action to approve modified text and associated modified form and continue rulemaking to adopt 16 CCR Section 1114, temporary licensure, military spouses or partners. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Dones. Assembly Bill 107, enacted in 2021, requires the board on or after January 1st, 2023, to issue temporary licenses to military spouse applicants if the applicant meets specific requirements. At the November 19th, 2022 full board meeting, the board approved the proposed regulatory language and associated form for Section 1114, temporary licensure, military spouses or partner. The package was submitted to the Office of Administrative Law, and they reviewed the language and determined that substantive changes were recommended to be brought back to the board. Board staff developed the attached modified text and associated modified form for Section 1114 for the board to review to implement the provisions of BPC Section 1941.5. So if you will look at page 108 of your package, I highlighted, underlined, strikeout is the original language that is required to be deleted, and the double underlined is language that should be, which is the modified text. So first of all, we had to change on page 108 of little b number 1, we had to change the date because you're looking at this language new, so the form will have to have the new date. And section C had to be deleted because you cannot post date a regulation. We also deleted some reference sections, as you can see below, and those did not affect the regulation itself, so OAL recommended removal. If you will look on page 110, we moved all the definitions up to the first notice. And so if they're referred to in later portions of the form, it is already defined. we made the box bigger on number 3 to identify the acronyms of RDH, RDHAP, and RDHEF. The form had to be changed as well, the date on the form in the footer. We also made some minor changes. We removed the full names of registered dental hygienist, APs and EFs, and used the acronyms. And then OAL had us move from the first bullet point of question number 11 up into the if yes paragraph. The area struck on the top of page 112, that was moved to the definition section. The applicant's background and history, we had to rework that to other professional licensure or certification history. So OAL wanted us to have in question 11, their dental hygiene licensure information, and then any other professional licensure information in question number 12. So we condensed it and mirrored the RDH history. We deleted some boxes because it was redundant. And the other major change was we deleted the application certification section on the top of page 115 and replaced it with the language at the top of 114 for the application affidavit. So these changes were suggested by the Office of Administrative Law in order for the package to move forward. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Sure. This is Justin Matthews. I move for the board to approve the proposed modified text and associated modified form for section 1114 and direct staff to submit the proposed modified text and associated modified form to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the EO to take all steps necessary to continue the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 15-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the EO to take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulation at section 1114 as noticed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Actually, may I add one thing? I apologize. You had pointed out, I forgot, I'm so very sorry. At the beginning of the actual regulatory language on page 108, little a, it says to eligible. It should be to be eligible. Dr. Dones had pointed that out, and because this was already published, I forgot to inform you of that. So I apologize.
Okay.
Hopefully that doesn't change your recommendation, Doctor.
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I second. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion?
This is Nalini Lolly Tribble. I have a question. Do they not require any additional training? Like anesthesia or soft tissue curettage? No. Oh, sorry. I was just wondering to clarify if they needed any additional training like local anesthesia or if they came from states that didn't perform that. I was just wondering that.
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. When this bill was going through the legislative process, there was not only us, but a few other boards that did submit letters of opposition unless amended, including like the SLN requirement and things like that. However, those were not taken into consideration. And so the bill went forward anyways for it to pass. And so this is the end result of what we have to do, is create these regulations that honestly have taken a lot of time. And I want to give kudos to staff and DCA Legal for helping us through this process, because it has been a long process and it's been arduous with all the changes that we've had to make.
This is Carmen Jones. I also had a question with regards to CODA. uh, If the student had to graduate from a CODA-approved program.
This is Anthony Lum again. When the legislation or the bill went through, their focus was more on portability rather than the minutia of the qualifications of each individual's licenses. And so that was the focus, as long as they were licensed to come here under military orders to obtain the temporary license. That was the focus of the author of the bill.
Thank you for the clarification. Are there any in-person public comments? Yes.
First of all, could the motion be amended to add B in little a? And then I don't think we received a second.
We did, but
Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. I apologize.
it's okay. Can we go back and move the motion to add the B? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So can I amend it as read, or do I need to reread it to include B and little a? So do I have to read the entire thing again? You can just amend it. Okay, so I move to amend it to include those details.
Thank you. Can we get a second? I second. Thank you. Is there any additional board member discussion? Hearing none. Is there any in-person public comments?
Joanne Galliano, is there any way that we can distinguish these temporary licenses from a California license? My concern, again, is what Ms. Tribble brought up, and also Carmen. We have it's a different standard. We have licentiate here to provide local anesthesia and nitrous, which is something that's patient safety is huge with those two. And we are, as licentiates from California, we're allowed to do these duties. Some states don't even allow that duty. The other thing that's a concern is, again, there is at least one state that licenses hygienists without them going through accredited program, a CODA-approved program. I understand that the bill doesn't allow us to require those things, but in the effort to protect the consumer, is there some way that the license can reflect that they're not allowed to do those duties, or that they didn't graduate? Something that would allow, I mean, I don't know about any of you, but I would feel very uncomfortable going to a dental office and seeing a hygienist that didn't have the same education as a hygienist who was there previously, that they're just here because they're a military spouse. I think it's important that the military spouses are practicing, but I think that this board needs to determine a method of distinguishing that license from a valid California license to protect the consumer, and to also allow the consumer some avenue if there is an issue or something does occur where they practice outside their scope. The consumer understands that this was done when they were practicing outside their scope. They're not just assuming that because they went to a dentist that hired a hygienist from California with a certain scope, that these same individuals have that. Again, it's to me, that's huge. And I would ask the board to is there some possible way that we could distinguish the license so that it would not be, and again, for the dentist employer as well, for them to know when they're hiring this person that this is a temporary license, they're a military individual, so that they can at least ask the question, do you have, did you graduate from accredited school? Do you
15
have
seconds.
have the ability to even practice the expanded functions that a California hygienist can?
Thank you for your comments. Yes.
Hi, this is Tracy Napper with the licensing unit. Currently, we do have something in place to identify temporary licenses. I think the code is like a temp and it says RDH. So they're limited to what they can do. We can't put the SLN on their license if they're not eligible for that.
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. Just to piggyback on top of that, and I totally agree with the public comment that was made. We looked into different avenues. However, the distinguishing factor will be that California licenses do show the SLN completion of that education and training on their license, whereas this temp license will not have that on there. We had some discussions about putting something on there, not qualified or SLN restricted or something to that effect. However, that was not approved. So the best way that I can give a pointer to potential employers is to look over either the temp license of your potential hire or the California license to see what their qualifications are and distinguish that with the California license that has the SLN listed on there. Thank you.
I just have one additional question then. Does the license say temporary license on it? Or does it does say temporary license on the actual license that these people are receiving? Because that would solve part of the problem as well.
Yes, I think the Dental Hygiene Board has only issued one so far. So the license number is license number 1. So if you Google it, you'll be able to see that there is license number 1. Most of our hygiene licenses have 5-digit numbers, 4 to 5-digit numbers. The temporary license starts at number 1. So we have one so far.
And it does say on their temporary license when I present my license, does it say on that license, temporary license?
It should say temporary and has something to do with the military. There should be another identifier for military.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have another question. Does that show also on the Breeze?
Yes, you should be able to see that online as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
This is Pat Hansen, and my question, I don't know who it goes to, but might be you. This is shareable data to across the states when temporary military people gets their licensing.
It's on our website. The temporary licenses are on our website, so it's for public view. The only licenses that are not issued are the ones that are coming under the federal law that are just doing the acknowledgement of their license. But the temporary military licenses, we have those as well, and there's modifiers that shows that it's a military license.
So other states are able to view temporary files, or
Yes.
say somebody works in 2 states,
Yes, that is correct.
Arizona, Utah, vice versa.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Are there any other in-person comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comments?
Certainly. If anyone has any comments on the temporary licensure issue, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment and click send, or our calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please, thank you. And I do have one more announcement from Executive Officer Anthony Lum.
This is Anthony Lum. I just neglected to announce our staff that are present, and I wanted the board members to get to know everybody. And so the remaining staff that we had, I was going to have them come in for introductions, but because staff have been adding comments to our meeting here, and individuals may not know who they are, I just wanted to introduce Tracy Napper. She's our licensing lead in that unit. We have Dr. Adina Paneshi Petty, who's our education and regulatory specialist. And we also have Albert Law, who's our assistant executive officer, and Crystal Uyama, who's our administration analyst. So we're all here to help you out to get through this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to ask the Board Secretary, Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal, to please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Nalini Lolly Tribble, and I would like to call the roll. Carmen Dones.
Aye.
Pat Hansen.
Aye.
Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews.
Aye.
Sridevi Ponnala.
Aye.
Nalini Lolly Tribble Agarwal. Aye. Aaron Yee.
Aye.
This motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 15, discussion and possible action for non-substantive changes to the board statutes through the 2024 Omnibus Bill. I would ask Executive Officer Anthony Lum to present this agenda item.
Thank you, President Jones. For this agenda item, every year the legislature sponsors a bill called the Omnibus Bill, and this allows for staff to recommend to the board any non-substantive changes that we see needs correction or clarification or what have you in our existing statutes. And so I received notification that they are gathering information for proposals for this Omnibus Bill for 2024. And if you look on pages 117 and 118 in your meeting materials, this is the agenda item. And specifically on page 118, we have a sample of the changes that we would like to make, the non-substantive changes, and it's for clarification purposes. In our statutes, because we used to be under the purview of the Dental Board of California, many times in our language, it's referenced as board. But when you're dealing with two separate dental entities, the reader may not be understanding whether you're talking about the dental board or whether you're talking about the dental hygiene board. So the proposed language revisions that we have on page 118 show that we just want to add either dental board or dental hygiene board for clarification, so that way people know exactly who they're reading about and what the reference is to. So I ask for your approval on the non-substantive changes to our existing statutes and present it to the legislature for the 2024 Omnibus Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. This is Pat Hansen. I move forward for the board to approve the staff recommendations and sustain changes in the statute presented in the 2024 legislative omnibus bill. Sorry, I didn't say that right. Omnibus bill.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Justin Matthews. I second.
Thank you. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any in-person public comment? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the omnibus bill, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. And our calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Speakers will have 2 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments on the omnibus bill? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you. Will Board Secretary Nalini Lali Tribble Agarwal please call roll and record votes for this agenda item?
This is Nalini Lolly Tribble Agarwal, and I will now call the roll. Carmen Dones.
Aye.
Sonia Pat Hansen.
Aye.
Sherman King, absent and excused. Michael Long, absent and excused. Justin Matthews,
Aye.
Sridevi Ponala,
Aye.
Nalini Lali Tribal Agrawal, aye. Erin Yi,
Aye.
this motion has passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 16, update on the current legislation, and this is informational only. I would like to ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Downs. If you will refer to page 119 that begins the update on the current legislation, many of them were held, some are 2-year bills possibly being acted upon in 2024. Some have been held in the suspense file. There were a few approved. The main one that we're happy about was AB 1257, our sunset bill that was approved by the governor on October 10th of 2023. And that is really it. We were watching many of the bills. So some are approved, some are being held, but this is the final for them. And for your convenience, at the bottom of page 126, there is the calendar for the upcoming highlights in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on any of the legislation covered, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into that text box and click send. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the legislation? I do not see any requests for comment. If you would like, I can close the public comment feature.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to agenda item 17, dental hygiene education updates, and this is informational only. I would ask Dr. Adina Petty to present this agenda item.
Thank you again, Dr. Jones. On page 128, you will see the beginning of my report. First of all, Diablo Valley College, we had a change in clinical staffing and infection control oversight. They are in compliance. Pasadena City College, there was a site visit generated due to a change in administration for Pasadena, as well as part of DHBC's oversight goals to review all dental hygiene programs in California. They have been not in compliance since October 12th, 2022. Currently, they are in temporary compliance, and if you will refer to the PCC reports, you'll see where those stand. Loma Linda University, they were in progress. We visited them on October 13th, 2022 and October 10th, 2023 due to some logistic issues. They are in compliance and they're doing great. Carrington College Sacramento and Carrington College San Jose, they both had site visits due to review facilities regarding their expansion request. Currently, they are not in compliance. However, they are working towards compliance and they have been updating me on a monthly basis with the sterilization room ventilation project in progress. So they are working towards compliance. Chabot College, we had a site visit on May 2nd, 2023. They are in compliance. Moreno Valley College, we visited them due to a change in administration. And on October 11th, 2023, we conducted a site visit and they are in compliance. Cypress College, we had a site visit with them on October 12th, 2023, due to a change of an administration for Cypress. The review is currently in progress. We are working towards compliance, working on getting them into compliance. You will also see on the page 130 of 226, the highlighted aqua areas. We will be seeing them shortly. Cabrillo College to be determined in 2024, as well as Carrington Sacramento and Carrington San Jose, due to those areas of non-compliance. Not Cabrillo. Cabrillo would be just due to a new program director. I should clarify that. Cerritos College has a new program director, so we will be visiting them, as well as their CODA site visit is in November 12th through the 14th of 2024. Concord Career College Garden Grove, we are going to visit them again because of a new program director. And Pasadena City College, they have a CODA site visit scheduled on March 26, 2024. So we're waiting on that determination and their self-study. And Taft College, we have them scheduled for February 2024 to visit their program as well. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any board member comments? Oh, seeing none, are there any in-person public, were you going to make a comment? Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
This is Pat Hansen. Sorry for delay. I wasn't quite sure. I just wanted to say thank you, Adina Petty, for the amazing job you've been doing and keeping us in touch with all those regulations and schools coming up.
Thank you. Are there any in-person public comments?
Joanne Galliano, and I am a subject matter expert and one of the educational consultants for the DHBC. So I'm speaking in this capacity at this point. My concern is with Pasadena City College. If you look through the material, and this is a lot of material for your board members to look through, but one of the final pieces of material, which is on page 201 of 226, one of the biggest issues with this program was the lack of appropriate clinic space. And the clinic space was set up in such a way that both patient safety, student safety, and faculty safety was being compromised. They've made some temporary fixes, which are just temporary, they say. However, if you look at that particular letter, and they've assured the board that they're going to move forward with a new clinic and an expansion to actually meet the needs of their students and the public and the faculty. However, they've now said that that would not happen until 2029. We're talking almost 6 years before the students, the faculty, and patients are in a facility that adequately meets the needs of an educational institution and a functioning dental hygiene clinic. This, to me, as a consultant, is a huge concern. That basically we're saying it's okay for you to wait 6 years to address the needs of your students, your faculty, and protect the consumer. I really would like this board to think about, we have the ability to put programs on probation at this point in time, to cite and fine and do things like that. I think that this board needs to really consider maybe moving to probation, moving to some kind of oversight where Dr. Petty and myself can go in
15 seconds.
with some kind of armor behind us to say, you can't wait 6 years to do this. It's not in the best interest of the consumer, and that's your primary concern.
Thank you. Are there any other in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the education update, you may look for the hand icon, click that. To raise your hand, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment, and click send. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to
Excuse me, I have a question. Is this possible for us to put this on a future agenda item to address this issue for Pasadena City College? Because 6 years is a long time to wait for them to be compliant in terms of safety for the consumers.
Yes, we can. At the board's prerogative to do so. Yes, we can put it on a future agenda item.
Thank you.
The information that we received from PCC, I don't think we have fully responded back to them in regards to this plan because they just recently submitted it. So it's something that's still under review. But if you'd like it brought back,
Yes.
if the responses that we get from them are not satisfactory, staff will definitely put it back on a future agenda item.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And we will now move on to agenda item 18, enforcement updates, statistical report, and this is informational only. I would ask Albert Law, Assistant Executive Officer, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Good morning, board members and everyone here. I'm Albert Law, the board's Assistant Executive Officer, here to present the enforcement report. First, I would like to provide a recap on our enforcement staff update. The board's enforcement unit currently only have one vacancy, which is our site and fine analyst position. However, that position has been filled with an anticipated start date on December 1st, 2023. Since our last board meeting, we filled the enforcement analyst and the special investigator position. Both are currently being trained to perform the respective duties. And now I would like to provide the enforcement statistics. Detailed enforcement statistics can be found in the meeting materials beginning on page 212 through page 215. In them, you will see the following in the 23-24 fiscal year between July 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2023. The board received 30 consumer complaints, 28 arrest conviction complaints. The board initiated 157 complaints, which are mostly related to citation and fine. And further, the board opened 25 application complaints. So far, desk investigation closed a total of 155 cases at the end of October 31st, 2023, and currently have 101 pending cases, with 24 cases that are over 1 year and 6 cases over 1.5 year old. Since our special investigative position has been vacant until November 1st, 2023, we only completed 1 investigation case. However, we are working diligently to start our investigation again, and we'll have new cases close for our next board meeting. As of October 31st, 2023, we have 63 pending investigation cases to review and investigate, with 22 of those cases being over 1 year old. The board so far issued a total of 125 citations and order $115,649 in fines so far for this fiscal year. And for the probation unit, the probation monitor addressed 18 probation violations between July 1st, 2023 and October 31st, 2023. And during that time, there were 4 positive drug screen for banned substances. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments?
Hi, this is Erin Yee. My question is, why are we so behind on some of our cases? It seems that it's in the best interest of our communities to make sure that we're following through with these violations in a timely factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main reason is due to staffing. The enforcement unit and the board had some staffing issues with that. Took a while for us to refill. And because we try to select the best candidate and really work diligently to select the right person to do it, they have taken us quite a little bit of time to get these positions refilled. And because our enforcement unit is relatively small, where there's only one person per those positions, such as a special investigator, we had to fill that position before we can start investigation again.
Are you planning to catch up with the new person hired December 1?
So the special investigator started on November 1st. This citation and fine analyst will be starting on December 1st. So during the time where we had staff vacancy, other staff were still proactively working on cases that that we could while still doing their own duties.
This is Anthony Lum. Just to add on to that too, the investigations that we have do take time, and a lot of times we do have to rely on third-party entities to obtain documentation. Sometimes we have to request it multiple times, so that's where sometimes the delay can occur.
Is there any additional board member comments? Seeing none, are there any in-person public comments?
Hello, Tugas Okai from the California Dental Association. I'm looking at attachment 4 on number 18. This is page 220. And I was wondering why some of the general population values are missing or inaccurate. Like Livingston has 0, Modoc has 8 in terms of the general population. So I was wondering if that can be amended.
Just a small comment. Those are under the licensing statistics. We're currently working under the enforcement statistics.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing all of number 18. Sorry.
Oh, no. They're broken down in sections.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Are there any other in-person public comments? Seeing none, are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Of course. If anyone would like to make a comment on the enforcement update, you may look for the hand icon at the lower and at the bottom of the WebEx screen. Click that to raise your hand, or the question mark icon. Click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. And our calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Are there any questions? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to agenda item 19, licensing, continuing education audits, and examination update statistical report. This is informational only, and I would ask licensing analyst Tracy Napper to present the licensing, examination, and continuing education statistics.
Thank you. Hi, it's Tracy Napper with the licensing unit. You will see I have attachments. There's 4 attachments from page 216 to 221. And the first attachment is the statistics of our applications that we receive for licensure for this fiscal year. And we've received 238 applications from July to October for the RDH license, licensure. 11 of those were for licensure by credential, and then we received 20 for the registered dental hygienist and alternative practice application, and 11 for the fictitious name permit. The second chart shows license renewal applications that we've received for the board throughout the fiscal year. And the second tier is for licenses and permits that we actually issued. So far, we've issued 364 licenses for RDH, registered dental hygienist, and 33 for the registered dental hygienist and alternative practice. And we've issued 27 permits for fictitious name permit. Our attachment number 2 on page 217, this is the examinations passage and failure rates for the registered dental hygienist as well as the registered dental hygienist and alternative practice. With the stats, we also include the hygienists, the applicants that take the examinations out of state, because PSI, which is our testing agency, they have locations in different states. So you will see how many are taking the exams in other states outside of California. Then attachment number 3 is our current licensing population as of October 31st. So you'll see that our current population includes the active and inactive licenses, which is, we have 18,019 active RDH licenses and 1,630 inactive licenses. Our non-licensed group includes the delinquent licenses, cancel license, revoked licenses, and surrender license, and many more. And you will also see that we're starting to calculate the retired license status now, because as of January 1st of this year, 2023, we have a license status for retired licenses. So we're starting to get a lot more applications that are requesting to retire their license. So, and then for the continuing education CE audits, you will see that we began doing CE audits, and we're starting to see that the failure rate for the CE audits are continually to increase or pretty much stay the same, because a lot of our licensees are either not being in compliance because they're not completing the CEs, or they're just not doing it because they think that we're not going to do anything about it. But our CE auditor is actually looking at all of the licenses, and the CE group that we're selecting is randomly selected. So it's not like, oh, we're going to do all the A's. No, they're all randomly selected, and we're doing 5%. So we would like to at least allow some more education. We're putting all that information on our website, so the licensees are aware that this information you need to be in compliance with continuing education, because it's required by law, and you're signing under penalty of perjury. So you're putting yourself in a bad situation if you choose not to be in compliance. That is the end of my report. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, also, I forgot to mention that I do have a chart for the licensed population ratio to the actual general population. And the information I retrieved was from the world. Look, I'm all over the page right now. Excuse me. I pulled it from a data. The data is general information. So does anyone have any questions regarding the information that I retrieved or reported on?
Are there any board member comments? I have a question, Tracy, with regards to the registered dental hygienist active licensees. So we show that we have 18,000, but there's, I want to say 13,000 of delinquent or not practicing. So, I mean, that's quite a bit. So this is, I guess, consistent with the shortage of dental hygienists? Is that what we're seeing?
Yes, and also prior to the new law going into effect for retired license status, the licensees that wanted to retire their license or they're no longer practicing, they didn't have that option. And so a lot of the hygienists are letting their license lapse for the minimum of 5 years, and then the license will automatically cancel. So that's a lot of the population here. And then some of them are, they just haven't submitted their payment yet. So I think with the retired license status, that's kind of shifting it a little bit. So now you can see that these are actual hygienists that are retiring their license.
That's a large population.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
This is Anthony Lum, Executive Officer. When you look at these numbers, the active and inactive on that line of roughly 20,000 has stayed pretty consistent over the years. We fluctuate between like 19 and 20,000 over the years as far as that category is concerned. When you're looking at that 16,000 number in regards to the delinquent, canceled, revoked, surrendered, and other categories, that's the total from the overall issuance of since we began issuing licenses. So that's where all those categories fall into. And I believe we have a fairly large number of delinquent licenses. Now, the reason for those is honestly, many licensees don't renew on time. So they move into that delinquent category. Hopefully they're not practicing, but they do avoid renewals because many of them, honestly, the communications that I receive, they forget when their license expires. And it's unfortunate because we try to make it as easy as possible because it's the last day of your birth month in an odd or even year. But the others that we try to, persuade to renew, we send out cards to the delinquent licensees to remind them, and hopefully, they act upon it. But others have moved on. They moved on to other professions. They've moved on to become dentists, and many of them fell out as well due to the pandemic. So and that's one aspect I really don't understand because dental hygienists are so educated in infection control and protection that individuals don't feel comfortable in the most protected environment to work. I still can't put that together, but it's a choice, but they don't feel comfortable with the pandemic and everything going on. So all of those licensees, again, and over time, since we've initially started issuing licenses, are grouped into that 16,000 number category. Thank you.
Thank you. Because my next question was going to be, how does this affect the budget? Because I didn't know how, how much time that was reported under. No, that's fine. No, because I thought this was like, in the last 3 years or last 5 years or, so no, that's fine. Okay, are there any in-person public comments?
Joanne Galliano. In terms of the, delinquent canceled, those statistics, and I guess the overall statistics, would it be possible for us to get some kind of a history started here? So as with your other things, you have 2021, 2022, 2023, that we could see previous years to see if this in actuality is a huge change, so we can better think of, ways to deal with the change. Because right now it's a number, but I don't know what the number was for the previous year. Was the previous year the same? Is it not really, we're not really seeing as huge of a shortage as we think we're seeing because we haven't seen what the trends are. So maybe for the next meeting, if we could see if this is actually a trend that we're seeing, maybe a graph or something that we're actually seeing more, we are seeing more canceled licenses than we have 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or more delinquent licenses so that we can address that issue.
Yeah, that's something that staff has put on our list of things to do, to have a tracking mechanism for multiple years. So that's something that we'll provide in future meeting materials.
Thank you. I think we have a couple board member comments also, and I think Pat Hansen.
Hi, this is Sonia Pat Hansen. This is for Tracy. On the retire licensing, just remind me, is there a fee when they retire? Do they continue to pay into?
So the initial application to retire your license is a one-time fee of $80. And your license is considered retired. There's no, you don't continue to receive renewal notices every 2 years like an inactive or an active license. Now, if they decide they want to come back and reactivate their retired license, there's a one-time fee of $160, and that will take their license expiration date to current. And then that their license may be current for a month to up to the 24 months, but their license is placed back into the current status.
And as well as for the inactive, are they still paying fees to be inactive?
Yes, the inactive status does not exempt you from the renewal requirement. You're required to pay the $300 every 2 years as if you were an active license, but you're just exempt from the continuing education requirement.
Correct. Okay, just want to double check on that. Yes. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yes, Justin?
Yeah, this is Justin Matthews, and this is also a question for Tracy. How long can you be in delinquent status?
Your license can stay in the delinquent status up to 5 years, and
Okay.
after the last day of your 5th year, your license will automatically cancel the following month.
Okay. Is there any way that we can get this broke down by length of time in delinquent status? First year delinquent, second year delinquent, third year, fourth year. It might help just to kind of understand how many people are in that, oh, I got to take care of these things situation, rather than just to see how many carry over each year. Might be helpful to see that trend.
Okay, I'll see
Not
what
just-
I can do.
Yeah.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Welcome.
Pat Hansen, and this is for Officer Lum and Dr. Carmen Dones. Is there a way that we can get back into looking into those delinquent to have a shortened period of time to where they don't drag it to 5 years? I think that being delinquent 5 years in our field is quite extensive time. Is there any way we can look into further agenda?
I'm not sure, but I'll try and answer that question. There's really no control that the board has of how long that license remains delinquent. It's up to the licensee.
I mean, they're still practicing, I assume.
They may or may
They're-
not. Hopefully they're not.
They hopefully are not.
Because
but
if we discover that they are, they may face
There are
administrative
penalties.
action against them
Yeah.
because they're practicing on an expired license. However, they have the time frame of 2 months to 60 months to have that delinquent license, and that's what's stated in the law, that if they don't renew it within the 5 years, it will automatically cancel and can't be reissued or reinstated. So it's basically that aspect is left up to the individual licensee of when they want to renew the license. However, if they do, let's just say, miss 1 or 2 renewals during that delinquent period, we charge them for the back fees.
Correct.
We are allowed to do that. So, we leave it into the licensee's hands, and hopefully they, like I said, we make it as easy as possible for licensees to remember when their expiration date is. But other than that, it's up to them to determine when they want to renew that license.
Is there a way that we can revisit that agenda part of it to come back and see if we can shorten the period of being delinquent in any aspects? Is any possibilities? of
Shorten
that?
it. Why do you
Extend
want
it
to
to
shorten
5
it?
years?
Well, that's in law. That's in the law.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how.
Yeah,
that
that's
aspect.
in our statutes that it's 5 years.
5 years,
Mhm.
okay.
And also the licensees, we send out courtesy reminders. So it's not, we're doing our part, our due diligence by making sure that they're aware that your license is is delinquent, and these are the fees that are owed. So they do get courtesy reminders.
So they do get a reminder you've been
Yes.
delinquent for a year now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just,
there's a little postcard that's sent to them as a reminder.
okay, yeah, just curious. Thank you so much for your answers, Tracy and Officer Lum.
I have a comment. So on the population of the California Dental Hygiene licensee population on attachment 4 on page number 220. Are these active licenses, or this also include licenses which are not active and delinquent?
These are actual licenses, all the licenses, whatever status they are.
Okay, so it's not accurate reflecting to the current stats
That
of,
is-
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the board? Any other in-person public comment? Are there any WebEx public comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Of course, if anyone would like to make a comment on the licensing CE audit and exam update, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type comment in the text box and click send. You can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. Are there any comments on the report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to agenda item 20, future agenda items. Are there any board member comments? Yes, Justin.
Yeah, my name is Justin Matthews, and I was wondering if we could request maybe a staff member from the team here to look over what is being displayed on our webpage with regard to the type of licenses and their statuses, to see if there's any way that we could better include some of the information about those temporary military licenses, just to address a question that we had from the public. I think I'm on the license status webpage right now for our board, and there's a description of 3 different license types. But on the actual page, I don't really see anything that's very specific to a temporary license and what that means. So I'm wondering if maybe we could just have some eyes on that to see if we as the staff here have any suggestions maybe about how we might modify some of the language on our website, just to make sure that people understand what that temporary license means. I don't know. Thoughts? Yeah.
Really briefly, it's still going through the regulatory process. So until OAL approves that regulation, we don't have the temporary license yet. So I'm sure EO Lum will have us write a blurb and have all the information posted on the website regarding temporary licenses.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I also have a comment. I would like to see us revisit, like the dental board mentioned that they are doing the publications. And I think that's a great way to educate the public on these delinquent licenses, and different things that maybe have, that we're hearing here, the military license, the temporary license. So I'd like us to revisit that option.
This is Lolly Tribble Agrawal. I would like to add to the future agenda addressing the issue with Pasadena City College to be in compliance and not having to wait the 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other board member comments?
I think it'll be good to look at the statistics periodically, because the shortages we are hearing and feeling, but we want to also realistically look at the numbers and understand it better.
Thank you. Are there any in-person public comments?
Dr. Panala, just a follow-up question on that. Specifically, which statistics are you looking at?
Uh,
You're
Active
looking for
license.
the licensing
Yes,
statistics? Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you. In-person public comment?
Joanne Galliano, did we talk about agenda item 19, the continuing education update?
We did.
Oh, okay, there's no comment on that. I don't remember having public comment on that particular, on number 19. The continuing education statistics? Well, it's a separate agenda item, though. It wouldn't have been a part of your report. It should have been, you brought it up in your report, but it's a separate agenda item. So we didn't
It's-
really discuss that.
Agenda item 19 is actually lumped. It's licensing, examination, and continuing education status.
Okay, because on this, I saw it as a separate agenda item, 19 on my board materials. It shows it as a separate agenda item. It's on page 222 of 226. It's agenda item 19.
Okay, well, it's been agendized as part of number 19, inclusive.
Okay, well, okay. It's confusing to me because the board packet that I have has that as a separate agenda item. It has licensing and everything else as the agenda item previous to that.
Okay, do you have a question on?
I did have a question on the continuing education statistics.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Certainly take a comment out of order. There was public discussion, but feel free to take your 2 minutes. And
I just had a question, and I'm not sure it can be answered because I know Sabra's not here. She indicated in her report that the fail rate has increased 8% over the last 3 audits. Any ideas why that fail rates increased 8%? I think the board's really tried to go out of its way to inform licentiates of what they need to do to make sure their continuing education units are in compliance, and to see that we have a fail rate of 8% increase over the last 3 audits, to me, it's like, what are we doing wrong that we're having this huge increase, even though we're trying to educate I know, you've sent out email blasts, et cetera, et cetera. So what are we not doing the population is still failing to do season and at a higher rate than they had when we weren't telling them what they had to do?
Well, I think in working through this, and just to respond to the comment, we have done everything that we can possibly at this end, including putting the information on our website as far as what the process is for CE. These licensees that are chosen for audits are randomly chosen. They're not selective for anybody. So, the group that is chosen for our currently 5% audits may have a high failure rate. Maybe the next audit has a little bit lower failure rate, but this is the average that we've seen overall. So maybe licensee compliance would be nice. That would be a great start. But as we know, there are individuals out there who don't follow what they need to do. So if they're chosen, individuals may cause this high failure rate to skew one way because they haven't completed all their CE requirements. But we've done everything that we can on our end. So as you said, so thank you for the comments, though.
And then a future agenda item I'd like to add is going back to a newsletter. I know we've discussed it before, and I think just with everything that was going on, that wasn't something that was a priority. But I think that having like the dental board's doing theirs at least twice a year, that we can at least have a newsletter that goes out to all licentiates with this kind of information. Again, you may not read it, but and keeping them abreast of what the board's doing, I think would be really helpful.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kim Loudenslager. I am the previous director of dental hygiene exams for credits. And I came here today from Colorado, and my colleague, Miss Kelly Mandela from Washington, she's going to be ascending to the position that I'm retiring from. So we had 2 agenda items. if you could consider for the future. One, if you're interested in another pathway for local anesthesia, Credits does offer an exam and has for many years. And we think that would be an opportunity for probably your out-of-state people coming in. Your in-state obviously graduates and you accept their local anesthesia, but this would be a great pathway for the out-of-state. And we would like to maybe give a presentation if you're interested on that and what that would look like. Local anesthesia. Number two is Credits has developed a program called CARE. And I think it was pictured in your agenda on page 41, because when we snap the picture there, it's totally separate from testing. It's more meant for state boards like yourself. We have many state boards who reached out to us. CARE stands for Calibrate, I think assess, remediate, and educate. And what it is the state boards that work with us, because we work for you actually, is they had licensees that were being either disciplined, had let their license lapse, they needed to get back into practice. And we've developed a program to help our state boards with those licensees that need to either reapply or remediate, and it's driven by the state board. So for example, if you had a candidate or licensee that you were disciplined and you wanted CE or whatever, we would like to present to you about the CARE program as another opportunity for you. So two things, local anesthesia and our CARE. And we can do that either just in giving you information. We don't have to do a time presentation, and we know your time is important. Or we can come and do it in person. Okay?
Thank you. One other agenda item, and I'm not sure if this law has passed, but there's going to be a change to the mandated reporter for child abuse. And the change that's coming says that any mandated reporter has to counsel patients. And I'm concerned that the dental hygienists don't have the training to do that. And as a board, I'm wondering what that's going to look like since it's going into law. And so I'm happy to do some research and bring it back. But that's, I think, something we need to begin to look at. Now, if there isn't any other in-person comments, are there any WebEx comments? DCA moderator, would you please facilitate the Q&A feature for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may click the hand icon to raise your hand, or you may look for the question mark icon, type comment in the text box and click send. And we do have a request for comment from someone logged into WebEx as Lisa Kamabayashi. Lisa, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone, and you'll have 2 minutes with a 15-second warning. And you're unmuted.
I am the director of dental hygiene program at West Los Angeles College. Today, I wanted the board to consider implementing a part-time dental hygiene education program in California. Currently, California Code of Regulations 1105 Sections B3 state, the length of instruction of educational program shall include 2 academic years of full-time instruction at the post-secondary college level or its equivalent, and a minimum of 1,600 clock hours. I'm making this request because there was an individual with a disability who desired to complete the dental hygiene program part-time. After all, the course workload of 15 units per semester was not recommended for this individual. The program could not offer a part-time option at this time due to the board rule and the needing of code approval. California is diverse and its residents face various challenges, including economic and time constraints. A part-time dental hygiene program would address these challenges by providing flexibility for individuals judging work, family responsibilities, or other hardships like disabilities. Some other states already offer structured part-time programs over 3 to 4 years length and then approved by CODA. By offering a part-time option, we can attract a more diverse pool of dental hygienists who might otherwise be unable to pursue their profession due to a full-time program's rigid structure. This inclusivity aligns with the state's commitment to equal opportunities and diversity. Part-time program aligns with the evolving nature of educational and work. Many individuals option for non-traditional education paths and seek flexibility in their
15 seconds.
professional development. Offering a part-time option caters to today's learners' changing needs and preferences. I request the board to look into modifying language CCR section 1105B3 for as a future agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional
Um,
next public comments?
I did see a hand go up from someone logged in as Lynette Hines, but then it went down again. Lynette, did you want to make a comment? And I've sent Lynette a request to unmute if she would like to make a comment. All right, possibly not. And we have a request for comment from someone logged into WebEx as Diane Yoera. Diane, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone and you'll have 2 minutes. And you're unmuted.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. This is Dan Lower. I'm from Cerritos College, and just in listening to this and listening to West LA's request, I also would agree with that. I wish we would have thought of it a little bit sooner because the climate that we live in now, the students have much more different barriers, and we're dealing with a lot of remediation and layering effects to try to get these students through. So I think that's a smart move if there's a way we can accommodate these students and remove those barriers. Thank you.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any other requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
The board thanks everyone for attending today's meeting. That concludes the public portion of the meeting, and the members will now convene in closed session. The board may meet in closed session to conduct an evaluation of performance of the executive officer pursuant to Government Code Section 11126, small a, small f. Thank you.